But you always have these characters that go over. It's past gender, basically, where you're like, this is you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's when I see a trash can. And I'm like, that's me. It transcends my humanity. I'm like, oh, hey. There I am. That's me in this anime. Right there. Yato just climbed in and rolled me down a hill.
Everybody, welcome to The Box, the Annie Chat box where 5 friends snuggle up in a teeny tiny space to talk about all things anime. Though today, there are only 2 of us here for a very special episode. I'll tell you what that is, but real quick, I just want to say hi, I'm Cami, I'll be hosting you tonight, and I have my partner in crime over here. Cassie, how are you this lovely evening?
I'm doing great now that you're here, baby.
Ooh, smooth with the lines as always. I feel like our flirtation wasn't as on game with Hanebado, even though
I think that Hanebado is just like that person that's at the bar that's making really loud noises every time you're trying to make a nice pickup line.
Yeah. Oof.
It just wasn't the right mood. Now, Hyouka, this is a mood.
This is a smooth move. So yes, Cassie is right. We're going to be talking about Hyouka today. This is another one of our special episodes. So this is not going to be a typical Annie Chatbox episode. This is a special segment called Shoujo Treehouse. Shoujo Treehouse is something that Cassie and I came up with where we would have the opportunity to introduce each other to some older shows, maybe some newer ones, but mostly things that run into the shoujo, josei, or slice of life genre. And it's just a time for us to examine some shows that we want to share with each other and kind of get a chance to deep dive on them a little bit. So yeah, today we are doing Hyouka, which I chose to do, and I am so excited to talk about it. And I guess the first place to start would be talking about the studio behind it. That's Studio KyoAni. They have also animated Free, Love Chunibyo and Other Delusions, and Tamako Market. Now let me hit you with the synopsis. Energy conservative high school student Hotaro Oreki ends up with more than he bargained for when he signs up for the Classics Club at his sister's behest, especially when he realizes how deep-rooted the club's history really is. Begrudgingly, Oreki is dragged into an investigation concerning the 45-year-old mystery that surrounds the club room. Accompanied by his fellow club members, the knowledgeable Satoshi Fukube, the stern but benign Mayaka Ibara, and the ever-curious Eruchi Tanda, Oreki must combat deadlines and lack of information with resourcefulness and hidden talent in order to not only find the truth buried beneath the dust of works created years before them, but of other small side cases as well. Based on the award-winning Kotenbu light novel series and directed by Yasuhiro Takemoto of a show, Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, which I have feelings about, but we will disregard that.
Listen,
Hyouka,
girl, feels
yes.
are totally okay. We discussed this in our last full episode. It's okay to vent. It's okay to talk about your feelings.
It's okay to vent. Yeah, Haruhi sucks, and I know Cassie backs me up on that.
This is how we feel. These are not necessarily the views of all Annie Chatbox members.
Yes.
They might be. I don't know. I've never actually talked to Craig or Dominic or John about Haruhi. I'd have to ask.
Yeah. But that aside, personal feelings aside, Hyouka shows that normal life can be full of small mysteries, be it family history, a student film, or even the withered flowers that make up a ghost story. Oof, that was long-winded, but I mean, I think it did describe it pretty well. Hyouka is a interesting blend of slice of life and mystery solving. It's interesting. When I heard that the show was mystery, I wondered, if it was going to be, very serious mystery, and then I found out it was, lighthearted. Did you go into this, thinking they were going to be solving some serious mysteries?
I'm not gonna lie, when I first watched this, a gajillion years ago, I was hoping that, and this isn't a bad thing, because I kind of got exactly what the opposite of what I was hoping for was, but I thought it was going to be, I don't know, like a high school version of Scooby-Doo or something. Not necessarily that they're fighting monsters or finding the monster and unmasking them every time, but like I was expecting like legit, like serious mysteries. Now, this is before I watched the first episode. I just was like, oh, is that what this is? Just reading the synopsis. But it ended up being way more slice of lifey than I had originally, like, thought it was intended to be. And that was fine. But no, I did not get what I was expecting at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd honestly say the same for me. Though basically all I knew of Hyouka going in was that it was very pretty. It was used in a lot of AMVs around the time that it aired, and like the next 5 years after that. It's still pretty well used in AMVs. And people utilized it to tell like really dramatic stories. They'd like utilize it to make very pervy things. They'd utilize it to make sentimental things. And I could never really get a grasp of the show's mood. So I really like, I'd seen so much of it, and I was like, this is going to be well animated, like visually stunning, but I don't know what to really expect tone-wise. And yeah, what we got was definitely, I think, a very slice of life piece with like very subtle focus of like character. Like it's like a character piece. And the mysteries to me act as kind of a how would I put it? I mean, they're kind of a mechanism for character introspection and character development. Yeah. And you had watched the full show beforehand one other time, or?
I think so. I'm going to be honest. This is one of those shows, and I'm pretty sure like everybody has like one or two of them in their anime list, or their My Anime list, or their Kitsu, or they're just memory banks, however you record your anime, where you're like, I watched this show, or this says I watched all of it, but I don't remember, like, most of it. And I think that goes to show that I just watched it at a really bad time in my life. I watched it when I was in China and still studying abroad, and I was sick all the time. I may have watched some of these episodes completely feverish, so I don't think my first experience with it was the most positive one, but I remember thinking it was visually a spectacle, but that's all I remembered about it. And I remembered that Oreki had his very passive attitude. That's all I remembered going into this show with the second viewing.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear that it wasn't just like a very like predictable, like, oh man, you're running through the exact same like clip like again and again. I'm glad that you could get something new out of it.
For sure.
Because, yeah, Cassie was awesome, and even though she'd already seen the series, I was like, I want to watch it, because I've never seen it, and it's like one of the KyoAni shows that I just, like, I kind of missed when it was airing, so that was another reason I wanted to gravitate towards it. And going into story, so we did mention that it's a slice of life. I would venture to say that it is slowly paced. And I think for me, I fell into the pace pretty well. I could see how for some people, especially if they're really thinking that this is like a serious mystery show, then they could kind of be blindsided and find it boring.
Honestly, I could see people who are into slice of life shows finding it boring. Because
That's
I think
fair.
Because I think even with a lot of like slice of life, especially what we're getting modern day slice of life, a lot of it is very, I don't know, I don't want to say fast paced, but at a mild jog for the most part. Whereas I feel like Hyouka's like, I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to go and smell the roses. I'm going to pet this dog that I happen to see along the road. I'm going to take my time getting home.
Oh
and
my
I'm
God.
Gonna slowly cut the peppers that I'm going to put in my dinner.
I'm actually dying. You said it perfectly, because literally everything you said, I can think of an accompanying scene that did that. Like when they're walking and you see all the flowers, or like when she's making dinner for them and it's like slow moving. I was like, holy shit, that's exactly it. Oh, yep. Lordy. But yeah, I agree. I think people could find it boring. I even think for me, it took maybe about the first arc, and then I was like fully invested. And I guess what I consider the first arc would be the what's it called? Basically like the Hyouka mystery, the one regarding Chitanda's uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I think is within like the first 5 episodes or something like that, 5 or 6.
It is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And at that point, I was definitely invested. Another thing that really kept me grounded, and we'll go into it more later, but even when things were slow, the show's just so beautiful to look at that I was like able to just kind of wait until action started happening.
Yeah, it's like that part in the car trip where you're just kind of like sitting there, but you're like passing a mountain range or something. It's like, oh, I've been sitting in this car for 8 hours, but that's real pretty.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. For you, like, how did you feel about the pace of the story?
I think I kind of felt similarly. The first couple episodes I did enjoy, but I was kind of in the camp of, are we going to get to the point of what this show is at anytime soon? Like, where's the drama? Where's the hook? Where's the conflict? What am I supposed to be getting out of this show? I'm so confused. And I think that when you get to the conclusion of the first arc, the Hyouka arc, which I think it's really cool that you figure out what the name of the show is and the anthology and everything. I like how that all pristinely comes together at the end of the arc, and you realize, okay, this is going to be about a group of people who are for some reason working together in this literary club, or in this literature club, and what their little daily life and mysteries are going to be. Okay, I'm in. I'll see. I think that the only part that actually bothered me was at the beginning of the show. Even the Hyouka arc was only a couple of episodes.
Right.
And then they had like, oh, we're going to go on a, like, a trip. And then they had like a little one episoder mystery about like a hanged man in a room. And that one was interesting. And what the mystery was there. And then you get to the second half of the show and there are arcs that are like 4 episodes long.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this school festival episode 4 fucking episodes? Why are we in this situation for 4 episodes with this film mystery? Like, I get what they did, and I think that the pieces all fell into place, but I was counting episodes at that point, and I think that that's a problem. That was my only issue.
I would completely agree. Yeah. And I think it was just because, well, I mean, not even just because of that, but when you would get used to like these 1 to 2 episode long mysteries, you get used to that pace. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, nope, here's a giant chunk that like we're going to spend a long time on. And while I wasn't necessarily counting episodes, I think there was something in the back of my head that was like, why are we still on the school festival mystery? Like, why are we on the film one? To me especially was really long-winded. There was just a lot of like downtime of characters like feeling bad and like being dry and not communicating with each other, and I was like, can we just resolve this, please? Like, I want to get to the point, like you said. I do think there's just a degree of that in the show of like, okay, there's a point to be had, but we're taking our time to get there.
Yeah, it's like you were already a slow burn and now you're like turning the temperature down. Why?
I love it. There's the metaphor for the day for this episode. You always have to have a good one.
I try my best. But yeah, like for sure, I think that those arcs were still very good. And I think that, especially with the film one, we really got to experience for the first time some things that maybe, I don't know, go, like deep dive into Oreki's character and how he perceives himself. And I think that's great because we flirt with that the rest of the show. And I think that's really, really cool. And I do like that during the cultural festival, we get a little bit of, oh, this is where Chitanda's having issues. Oh, this is where, God, the other 2 characters, my brain's dying.
Mayaka
and
Satoshi.
And Satoshi are having their issues with their own personal selves when they can't stand up for themselves, where they feel that their friends have things they lack. And I was like, this is really cool. I still think you could have done it faster. I really think you could have.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I know we talked to Craig about this briefly, and I think it is an interesting conversation piece where he asked us if we thought that the show should have been 12 episodes.
No.
And we disagree. And maybe just like fleshing out a little bit of that. I do feel like it could have been good if maybe the certain arcs that we said were too long were cut a little bit, but then they could have given more space to give us other episodes that maybe fleshed out like Mayaka and Ibara a little more, like even Chitanda a little more. I'm presuming the novels that this is based on like go farther, so we could have just grabbed like a couple extra mysteries and put them in there.
Exactly. Because there's like these little in-between mysteries that happen that are basically one-offs, but they still show a lot of what's going on. Like there's the episode with the helicopter, for example, without going into like
Yes. Oh, yes.
God, that one was so good. And it was only a 1-episode long thing. But I wish most of the show was that. I wish it was just 1 or 2 episodes that dive into the conflict that these characters are feeling in their everyday lives. And it's subtle. But that's what makes Hyouka so good. But when you're dragging that subtlety out over 3 to 4 episodes, it just gets to be dull. Or the impact is dulled a little bit.
Yeah, I actually agree completely. Specifically that helicopter episode and a couple after it, like near the end of the show, got me really invested into an aspect of the show that had been teased a lot. Which for me, like the last like maybe 5 or 6 episodes really got me invested in like the romance per se. And they were all little like one-off episodes. So it would have been really nice to have more of that. I agree completely. And I want to delve more into the romance, but we can do a little bit of that in characters, you think?
I think so. That'd be good, because characters and story, like, this is one of those ones where they're really stitched together, because there isn't much of a story. So the characters, and I mean, even right now, most of what we talked about is the characters, and how the story doesn't give them enough time to grow in some instances, and then really massively grow in others. So yeah. For sure. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Hey, tell me about your favorite character and the passive icon you are sporting right now in our call.
I love Oreki so much. Like, I think the first time I watched the show, I was very, like, not into him at all. And I think that's because half the show I was not paying attention because I was super sick. But Oreki has the most subtle but profound character development of a character I've seen in a long time. Like, normally when you have characters grow at a show, there's always like this really big dramatic turn of events for them, or this big major conflict that makes them grow, or oh, they had this traumatic backstory. Oreki's just a normal guy living a normal everyday life, and he just does not want to live it to the fullest. He just wants to, maybe passively live his life, smell the roses occasionally, but I think his motto was, if I can put off doing this thing and it's going to expend my energy, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And we go from that to him actually actively making decisions, because he's dragged through the show most of the time. And I would argue, without going into spoilers, that by the end of the show, he's actively making decisions himself to put himself out there and explore things himself, either for his benefit or for others. If you had met him, if you had put him in those exact same situations at the end of the show, I don't think he would have been willing to put forth that effort without the other characters dragging him to do so, or staring and saying "kiri narimasu" as often as they can until he finally breaks.
Ah, that's so true. I do feel like definitely there's just a transition from him begrudgingly accepting things and then really developing into, no, this is my stake in this matter and I'm going to take charge on it. And I don't mean to do this, but it's an interesting parallel, especially to like Kyon from Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, who for me a lot of the time felt like he was constantly dragged through. I didn't see a lot of his want to do things and like his stake in issues. And I think that it was just like beautifully executed with Oreki. And I think a lot of that is also complemented by the fact that he has so much internal monologue.
Yes.
And that he's our show's narrator. I'm so glad he's our show's narrator too, because he just adds so much like sass and like fun observation to everyone and everything that's going on around him.
I also really like that, again, without going into spoilers, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna try and be as good as I can.
Me too.
the thing he struggles with by the end is, I would argue that his inner conflict is, he doesn't necessarily just want to be another face in the crowd, but he defaults to that because he doesn't think that he's special or anything better. And I think that that's something that we as people struggle with, unconsciously or not. And I think in Oreki's case, he probably unconsciously was doing what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that as he was interacting with others, he started to consciously question who he is and whether he really wants to live a life of just passing things by, just letting things pass him by. And I think that's really cool. And a really cool thing to watch when you're in your mid to late 20s and considering the same things yourself. Like, this kid's wise beyond his years, I suppose. So
totally. That's awesome. I agree. I loved Oreki a lot. He was great, and I'm so glad that he was our main lead. The only, I don't even know what reason necessarily. I think I do like Oreki as much as my character that I chose, and that is Mayaka Ibara. And I think part of it is honestly that I do have a penchant for side characters, and she's not she's one of the main 4 characters, but she's also a side to our main female lead. And she, instantly, just kind of visually, I was like, ooh, I'm interested in her. I want to find out what her deal is. She's also, she works in the library, so I have got a lot of bias there as well. I was like, ooh, good girl, very good girl, work in library. She great. And she cosplay. And she don't take shit from people, which I really like. Well, it's actually something that she struggles with that we get to see a little more of in the student council arc. But she's very headstrong, and she keeps, she feels real to me. Sometimes she feels insecure about herself or her feelings, and then she gets, upset about things. She just felt very human, very relatable, and I just found her really fun, and I really enjoyed her character a whole lot. And she is a good friend, even when she likes to shit on Oreki and tease him. They have a very interesting relationship, with back and forth banter.
They do, and I think that her uneasiness towards Oreki and how that evolves throughout the show is also very fun too. And I could do an entire podcast on just their interactions, even though they seem minor, because you go from her being almost disdainfully involved with him to having a thank you towards the end.
Yeah.
And it's just, and that just made it even more impactful. I was just like, I love how these characters interact with each other. And I love how intricate it is and how real it is from beginning to end and how those relationships and dialogue evolve. And I think that's really shown a lot through Mayaka. She's great.
Very well said. I do agree. That is another big strength to me. And again, I think it is because of how the show manages to utilize subtlety. Even though it seems slow at times, these characters feel real. They don't feel like anime trope characters. These feel like kids in a high school.
And honestly, Mayaka was the most high school kid of the high school kids because of the issue that she had with dealing with other high school kids and a club and just, oh my gosh. All of the manga club interactions literally made me cringe sometimes. Mm-hmm. With the petty high school bullshit she had to deal with.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And there were just moments where you would see her really wanting to say something, and then she withheld, and I was like, damn if that ain't real.
If that ain't
damn if I don't respect that, because we've all been there. Yeah, I agree completely. And she is a good girl and deserves a lot more than she is often dealt with. So yeah, much love to Mayaka. But I also think we could probably lightly touch on our other 2 essentially leads out of the main 4.
Sure.
I guess because we just went from Mayaka, there's Satoshi.
Speaking of deserving better, I think that one of the plot points that I never gotten, I think that they didn't conclude it because it's implied that that's something they're still dealing with, but the plot point between Satoshi and Mayaka that isn't necessarily resolved is one of the things that really kind of annoyed me at the end of Hyouka. That's one of the things that I wanted was a resolve or something. It could have been anything, but we mostly just get a sentence. We're working on it.
I agree. Because they got you invested in it from, the first time that you meet the characters. You know the thing that's going on between them, and it's just so lightly teased at, and you're just and then you even got, the build of it in episode 18, and then it just kind of, we just wanted to have you watch all the suffering and not give you the reward.
Yeah, and I also just feel like it's super unfair to Mayaka. I think Satoshi is a very interesting, polarizing character in Hyouka for me because I feel like out of the 4, I know that I said Mayaka's deals with the most high school, but I think out of the 4, Satoshi is the one I most believe to be an actual person. because his things that he struggles with are things that I feel like a high school boy who is just coming out of middle school and going through high school and trying to change his personality and grow the fuck up would feel and think. And as much as he frustrates me, I feel like and all of them are very natural. That's one of the things I love about Hyouka is all of the characters and their problems seem natural. But with Satoshi, it just was that's why it was that much more frustrating, because I had to kind of forgive him for being kind of a dick, because I'm like, okay, yeah, I get you, bro. I get you, but I don't like you. And I think that Oreki kind of did the same thing. So I'm referring to a very specific scene here without going into it. But Satoshi is another thing I don't like is his constant jealousy of Oreki. Because that also is a thing, without again going into spoilers. But his, like, passive jealousy just kind of annoyed the fuck out of me. But I'm going to shut up so you can talk about
I appreciate it. You're just helping fuel me as well. Especially with his jealousy. That's, like, one of the first things that I very much noticed about him. They make it pretty apparent. It's, like, every time that they're talking, he'll just say something, and you're like, ooh, I see. You're not subtle, kid.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I think it really is a matter of, like you said, kind of having to forgive begrudgingly, because I feel like his jealousy is very real, and especially in high school where you're just insecure about everything about yourself. It's a very, like, toxic way of thinking, but I get that. That's human, that's flawed, that's very real. And even that per se, like, there's just a lot about Satoshi's character that unfortunately was just introduced and not really, like, given resolve, which I know that you, again, are going to go into on a whole with the show.
Sure.
Yeah. But also I do want to mention, just because it's funny, Satoshi, like, sometimes he would just have, like, mood swings in the show, just, like, his mood would completely switch. And whenever he did, I would message Cassie on the side, and I was like, is it bad that I'm just, like, waiting for Satoshi to, like, murder everybody?
He's gonna be the one. He's gonna be the kid in high school that snaps. Oh no.
You sent me all these creepy screen caps of him, and you were like, he's coming for you, Cami. And I was like, can you not? This is making me so uncomfortable.
The best part about Satoshi, though, I think, is that he is such a jealous and person who cannot handle his feelings enough to the point of hurting other people.
Oh, yeah.
But he's also the most happy-go-lucky person in the entire fucking cast. And I think that duality is really interesting and cool, and I like that Hyouka does it, because it shows that he is a complex character. But I also agree with you. I feel like there's so much about him that is so... It's almost like you can barely scratch the surface of who he is. Like, we can see that there's so much stuff there. And I'd say the same for Mayaka in a way. I think there's so much there, and I just wish this is where I think the show should have been longer. Or cut trim the fat of the film and the cultural festival and give me more of this. Build these two characters up a little bit more, because it's so unfair. It's so unfair.
I agree. That's the show's fault for showing us they could do really, really, really good character development, but then they only tease us with these characters. It's like, come on, show. We know you can do it, but you're just not giving it to us the way we want you to.
Either that or give me a second season. I don't care. Come on.
Yeah, I would have liked to see a second season for this show. Because again, it's just these, it's a glimpse into the characters' lives, and I could just kind of watch forever, almost to a degree.
Yeah, and I think they, like, towards the end of the show tease, like, oh, we are gonna grow up and make decisions at some point.
Right.
And I think that's really cool that they're already thinking, and I want to see it. I want a really long, slow burn show about them deciding to go to college. Give it to me.
Yes.
I'll watch it.
Oh my God. And then before we jump off of that also, I definitely wanted to talk about Chitanda, because she's the kiri narimasu? Like, she is the poster child of Hyouka, and I was really surprised by how much I liked her. I didn't actually think that I would like her going in, but she's great.
She is. She is just as interesting, if not more so than some of the other characters that we interact with. Because unlike Satoshi, we get a lot more with Chitanda than I was expecting to. like her interactions like and her feelings, she just keeps them just above the surface, which is really interesting. Because there's really episodes where we get to see this, like for example how she has that quiet moment with Oreki when she's figuring out stuff about her uncle, or there's a scene where she's thinking about how siblings don't get along, and it has this scene of her looking really upset. And also, like, every interaction that shows that she is, like, of a higher class family in this, like, rural area, like, the show is very Japanese, and it really shows it through Chitanda. Like, I feel like I felt closer to how a Japanese school child would act in Chitanda than anybody else I've seen in anime.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me also how I feel like she's so challenged by just again her intense natural curiosity for everything, and sometimes that's like completely what drives her. Like she can't even see like her surroundings or how other people are feeling, hence why she kind of drags like Oreki through a lot of stuff, just because she's like, I have to know about this thing. I'm curious about this thing. But that side of her, like where she's just driven on impulse, seems very in contrast to those moments where we see her and she says, oh, you know, as the heir to my family's, like, you know, high position, I have to act this way. I'll have to pursue this. I'll have to do that. And there's a little bit of flirting in the show with, you know, that clash a little bit. And, it'd be really nice if we could see them growing up and, like, seeing her have to face that, like, head on. Because it really seems like we're just kind of starting to see it. She's starting to open up to like Oreki about that side of herself. And it was really intriguing. She's a very intriguing character and is also just a really good person deep down. You see that by like some of her morals, like the thing about the siblings. You see that with how she interacts with like Mayaka later on. She's a good girl. I like her, and I love all the Kininarimasu memes. They're great.
I love them. They're great. Another thing that I love is that she seems like she's like such an open character, but she's really not. Like she's only being as much as she can be at school. And like you said, that's really explored a bit more in the last couple episodes, and I want more because they do this thing, and I've been waiting to talk about this. I'm so excited. They do this thing with distance in the show, with Oreki and Chitanda and everyone else, where they often have her a little bit further away from everyone, or like her first meeting with Oreki in the coffee shop, there's like, they're on opposite sides of the table and there's a clock between them. And by the end of the show, one of the last shots of the show is her standing like right next to him when she's actually opening up and talking about things. And I'm like, I love this so much because that's just who she is. Like she's such a good person, but she can only be as much as she can be because of her family and how much she thinks she can be. I don't know if that sentence made sense, but I tried.
It was beautiful and amazing, and I appreciate you.
I just love her so much. And there's that scene where her upperclassman tries to tell her, like, this is how you get what you want. Like, this is how you get what you want from other people. And she tries to implement it and totally fails. And she's like, I could not be a business person. Like, I cannot extort people. I cannot make people do what I want. I'm not comfortable. And it's very nice to see her come to those realizations.
I agree completely. Yeah, and the thing that's just so good, and I feel like you mentioned this even briefly when we were talking about Oreki and Mayaka, is the thing also that I really like about the characters is that out of like the 4 characters, all of them have unique relationships with each other. Like even if it's not like the main interactors, anything, like the couples or just the girls, just the boys, they all like have dynamic relationships with each other. Yep. Which is really, really nice. On the route of romance, I shipped things in this show. Some of it was handled better than others, but yeah, it's good stuff. I won't get into spoilers, but I thought the romance was subtle and it built nicely. I do feel like it was kind of pushed a bit harder in the last like maybe 5 or 6 episodes, and I did kind of want more. But I liked it. I think that was a strong part of the series for me.
I agree. You put that so nicely. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I love it.
Well, then maybe we are good to go into production because there's a lot more to gush about there, too.
Oh, Jesus Christ almighty. The show is just... it's so good. It's so good. I don't even have anything bad at this part. Like at least with characters and story, I was like, oh, here's a nitpick it with production. I'm like, well, this was perfect from beginning to end. I got nothing.
Like, honestly, even with all of the other shows that have been put out, like, since Hyouka, like, there are just some shots in Hyouka that, like, rival the stuff that KyoAni is, like, coming out with today,
Yep.
for me personally. Like, whether it's just, like, really shiny and polished, like, honestly, there are some scenes in Hyouka that I'm like, yeah, this is, like, Violet Evergarden status, you know?
I feel like they were practicing for Violet Evergarden,
Yeah!
like Hyouka or something, because there are some scenes in here where, like you said, the whole package is beautiful, but there's a few scenes where you're like, oh, they took the gloss brush on this one, like, to
Yeah!
town or something.
Oh, the lines are so sharp, which I really, really love. And the even just like the creative visuals, like the way that the mysteries are told is like unique in every single one, and it's so many different like cool art styles, and you just go from like weird minimalist, you have like pop-up puppet like in a pop-up like paper book at one time, like a picture book. There's like old school film effects. Like they have fun with it. And it definitely, again, takes things that could be like mundane situations, but gives them this like whimsy and uniqueness that is just entirely like on brand of the show and makes the show really memorable. Like, production is insane and I love it. And it's just great.
It really plays into the characters as well, because like a lot of the like really fantastical stuff you can tell is stuff that's coming out of Oreki's mind, especially in the first couple episodes. Like I remember there was one scene where like there were little chitandas like rolling all over him saying "Kimi animas," and he was just like, I do not want anything to do with this. Or there was a scene where she forced him to pick a specific menu. Or the scene where he's standing in front of the bulletin board and all the kanji falls off and like...
Oh, and it like floods him. Yeah.
Yeah. And like there's like so many like there are so many places where I can tell like that morning like the director came in and had a nice cup of coffee and walked up to like the key animators and stuff and was like, you know, you guys just have some fun today. I don't give a shit. Just make something nice.
Oh, for real though. Oh my gosh.
Like I could tell people were having fun while making Hyouka because it just looks like people are having fun. I hope that that's the case. I hope I'm not wrong. I hope that like he didn't come out with a coffee and a whip and he's like, all right, get to work. Like I'm hoping that's not the scenario.
Yeah. Well, from the respect that I think KyoAni gets with like their very good training programs, I definitely think it's probably the latter. Also, again, just because I can't stop staring at our icons, excellent character expressions. That's a fun part of the show. They're kept like rather grounded. They're not cartoony, but they're really fun. There were a lot of like smirks and pouts and sparkly eyes, and that was another just joy to watch.
It really was. Also, camera angles were played with a lot. I mentioned also earlier, they like to put a lot of distance between some of the characters just visually. There are scenes where, for example, Oreki is standing really far away from Satoshi, even though they're having a conversation with each other.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Oreki and Shitanda. And there's always this continued, like, balance between the characters that doesn't seem unorthodox, but it's also that distance gets like slimmer and slimmer in the shots as the show goes on, and I love it.
That's amazing.
I keep trying to say a lot of words and I'm not sure if they make sense together, but that's just how Hyouka makes me feel. It makes me feel so many things. I try and piece them together and it's just a messed up puzzle, but you get it.
It's a puzzle that you can solve. Okay.
It's like a 200 million piece puzzle that you can just put together in your spare time.
I agree completely, though. I think that you were saying things quite eloquently, and I agree. There's just a lot to love in this series for me, and it's just fun to talk about, but I'm not super eloquent with it. Also, I totally wanted to shout out the openings and endings because I love all of them. They're great.
I think they're all equal quality, too, because I feel like with T4 shows, there's always, like, an opening or an ending I like better, but I think all four of them are, like, the exact same tier to me. They're all perfect, and they're all great, and they all suit the mood of the show, which is great.
And at that time, too, because, like, you notice how there's kind of the, at least in the endings, the first one's, like, very slow-moving and, like, very, it's sleepy, you know? And then the second one has all that energy and, like, the affection and the cutesy, and I feel like that really matches kind of where the characters are going as the show moves forward. And
Yes.
oh yeah.
No, I was just saying yes. I also
Yeah.
like that the second one is like a sleuth kind of aesthetic.
I love Kimi no Misteri. Like, they're all great, but I don't know. Kimi no Misteri, just, like, I have a lot of feelings about it. That's the one that I, like, really looked up after I watched the show and just, like, played and listened to over and over. Because it's so cute. And playing on, like, the famous detectives looking for their, like, number one rivals, that was just so cute. And, again, I think kind of shows that the production put stock into caring about the little details that were in the novel and like what the show's about.
I need to read the novel. I just need to go read it.
I wonder if it's translated. Yeah,
I don't even know. Time to start practicing my Japanese by importing copies of Hyouka and trying to read them. God bless.
Let me know how that goes. I will tag in on that.
It would not go very well. I do not know a lot of kanji.
Oh, no.
Or words in the Japanese language at all. But hey, a good way to practice is to just pick out words and learn them. And I learned kini narimasu, so there's that.
Kini narimasu? Speaking of that, voice acting's great. I don't know if there's a dub for this show.
There is a dub. I hate it.
I
hate it. I hate it so much. Okay, so here's the thing. So Hyouka, you really needed good voice actors for Oreki, and you really needed a good voice actress for Chitanda. The other characters were important too, but the ones that have the most scenes alone together are Oreki and Chitanda, and that means you'll hear their voices back to back to back to back to back to back to back. Oreki's VA was alright. Chitanda's was terrible. I'm really sorry.
No.
I didn't like her performance. I'll have to look up who the VAs were. And if they have done anything else, and I'll do that in the meantime while we're talking. But I just did not like her performance at all. And I think that she kind of ruined the entire dub for me. She opened her mouth and I just couldn't keep watching it. And it's unfortunate. Because I had every intention to watch this in dub. Because I just wanted to be the other person. Normally that's Craig. Normally he's the other guy. And I'm like, it's just me and Cami on Shoujo Treehouse. Somebody's got to watch the dub. I'll try. Oh, okay, this is terrible. I don't like it.
Oh, no. Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, though, too, because, again, we were talking about how fascinating and, like, complex Chitanda is, and I feel like if you don't nail that and try to kind of touch on her from, like, a surface-level performance, it just doesn't work. Like, the character isn't going to be as effective, and that sucks. I don't actually even know who voiced her in Japanese, if she's prolific or not, but she did a great job.
Let's see here. So Oreki was Adam Gibbs. That doesn't ring a bell. And then Chitanda was Madeline Morris.
I think she's a little bit newer. I want to say that she also was like Taiga and Toradora or something.
I liked the Toradora dub. I'd have to look it up. Maybe it was just direction. I have no idea. Or maybe she just has trouble with excited characters. Because I remember really liking the Toradora dub, but then again, that was years ago, so I'm not sure how I'd feel about it now. Satoshi was done by somebody named Dallas Reed. And Mayaka was Jill Harris.
Okay.
There are some people who I do know in the supporting cast. For example, Oreki's sister was played by Caitlin Glass.
Oh, hey, yeah, I know her.
And there's a few other names in here. Alexis Tipton was Irisu.
Oh, the senpai. Okay,
the senpai. Yeah. I had thoughts and feelings about her too, but
you could drop him if you want. Like
she's the one character in the cast that like kind of like how like Satoshi has points that make him kind of a jerk, but you love him anyway because you understand what he's going through. I don't get Irisu's deal at all. I don't like her. I thought that she was kind of a bitch for what she did to Oreki during the film thing, the film arc. I did not like it. I didn't like how she made him feel afterwards, and I don't like how she was so casual afterwards either. I don't like her.
Yeah,
I like her design.
I could agree, definitely. I feel like while I didn't like what she did to Oreki, I felt like it was at least good for the plot because, again, like what it brought to our perspective, but also like they brought her back multiple times, and I was like, you don't really need to. Like, I want more, Mayaka in the spotlight and Satoshi, and like she already kind of served her place. And it makes me wonder what her presence is like in the novels, if she's prevalent or not. I will say this, when I was looking for Hyouka Doujinshi, there's actually more for her than there are for either Mayaka or Chitanda, and I'm like,
That's
Nah.
strange.
Yeah, whatever. So she's there.
I'm trying to see what else Madeline Morris has done. But it does seem like she's relatively got at least a few things. I don't see her, yeah, she apparently played a side character in Hanebado. There's that.
Neither of us watched the dub for that. Oh.
We did not. Yeah, she doesn't seem to have a whole lot of major roles, but hey, she's learning, and I don't think anybody who's a VA is inherently bad. If you're there, you're doing your job, and you pass the audit. I think maybe it was bad direction, or maybe this just wasn't the role for her, but I did not like her voice as Chitanda.
Gotcha.
It just didn't click for me. It was also deeper than I expected it to be as well, which isn't her fault. That's just her tone. But I guess I just didn't get the same energy either. And whoever played Chitanda in Japanese, which I will look up, just had this constant energy.
Yeah. While you do, I definitely want to shout out Satoshi's voice actor, Daisuke Sakaguchi, because he is also this is so dumb, but like my favorite character in Clannad, Yohei Sunohara, and I just love that he's playing another like a Ki Kyoani like bestie in this show. I think they just have him like in the market for the best friend character, and he did a really good job. He was very like instantly recognizable for me because he got that nasal voice, but he's a very good actor.
For sure. It looks like Chitanda was played by somebody named Satomi Sato. I'm trying to see what else she has done, but she was Naru, the best friend in Sailor Moon.
Oh, wow. Was that for Crystal or the, like, wow, if it was the original one.
I think Crystal.
Okay.
She also plays, this is probably another prolific girl, she plays Wendy and Fairy Tail, and I think that character is...
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Pretty good, but she just did so good as Chitanda. I'm gonna go look up Oreki too. Who was Oreki?
I feel like Oreki is a prolific voice, but I just can't.
He is, but I can't remember the name. But you made a really good point. Like the Japanese voice acting was really good. I don't even think all of the voice acting in the English was bad. I just think Chitanda was not the best choice. Of course, it's Yuichi Nakamura.
Oh my god, best.
Okay, there we go. That's all. That answers everything.
I also feel like that. I mean, Oreki's just really lovable in general, but like Yuichi Nakamura's voice, like almost any character that they do, like I'll fall in love with them to a degree.
I like plus.
Yes.
So yeah. Daisuke Sakaguchi is Satoshi. Yeah.
Yeah, good cast. Very, very good cast. I also feel like Mayaka is someone that's well known.
Probably.
I just can't think of it offhand. But yeah, like the performances were great. I think they definitely added to the show. Production all around of this thing, I think, was just absolutely stellar.
It was. Everything in the production I have no complaints about. I literally have nothing. The music was also beautiful throughout. Not just the openings and endings, but everything felt perfectly in place. There's a lot of sound effects in the show too that were also done perfectly. My only issues with Hyouka at all are with I wish it was a little bit either shorter because they cut some stuff out, or longer so I could have some more. Like that's it.
That's so
like
true.
It needs to be shorter or longer. It sounds weird to say that, but
I mean, it's kind of fair. We haven't even really mentioned the fact that it has a weird episode count. It's 22 episodes long. Yeah. Opposed to the standard like 23, 24, 25. So it definitely is a little bit strange. Without going into spoilers, how did you feel about the ending? Did you feel like it was incomplete, that maybe you wanted more, or were you okay with it?
I think that for what it was, I was okay with it because they very clearly showed there is a change going on between Oreki and Chitanda, and them switching their views from thinking about their day-to-day life in high school to their day-to-day lives thinking about the future and what they're going to be as adults. And I think that they I don't feel like they introduced it and then I felt like it was jarring because they introduced a new idea and then it was awful because I wasn't going to get any more. But I feel that it completed it because it showed there's more that these characters are going to reach for, and just how far they've grown isn't the farthest they are going to. And that's great, but that also means I want a second season.
I agree completely, like verbatim everything you just said. I feel like what we got as a conclusion was enough that I wasn't like upset and I needed more, but I totally want more. Like I
Yeah.
would love to have more. And I mean, hey, sometimes shows are taken like a long time and then they finally get another season. Like Chihaya Furu, crossing my fingers for Hyouka season 2.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
All right, do you feel good to roll on into ratings?
Sure.
Okay. Actually, I don't care about order this time. I can go ahead and go first. Yeah, so I was definitely interested to watch Hyouka. I knew it was very special to a lot of people around me and was just one of those pieces that I missed or didn't seek out at the time. I'm really glad that I decided to give it a chance and pick it up. This, honestly, like, we should do an episode of, like, actual podcast where we do maybe, like, top 5 of shows by certain studios. I feel like that would be super hard, but it would be fun to think about.
Oh, I like that. We could
Yeah.
just like, each of us could pick like a studio, but then everybody has to pick a top 5 for all 5 of those studios. I love that idea. Oh, I love it. I'm writing it down.
We gonna do it. But yeah, I bring that up because I think that Hyouka falls into my upper echelon of Kyoani shows. I was surprised with how much I enjoyed it. It just goes for because I really like being able to sit with characters that I feel like I can get to know and then grow really attached to, and that definitely happened here. It also completely helped that the show is just absolutely gorgeous in every sense of the word. Story-wise, there are definitely some things that could have been fixed, but overall, I was very pleased with the show, and I'm gonna give it a high like it. I definitely really loved it a lot, and again, please, season 2, very good stuff.
For sure. I think I'm going to mirror a lot of the things you said, this as we have done through this entire episode. I hope nobody's bored. Please don't be bored. I also think that this is a gem, and it was also a sleeper in a couple ways. One, it put a couple of people to sleep. I don't think that's the thing. Like, I don't think I could sit Dominic, for example, down and make them watch this show. This show is for a very specific group of people, and it's either going to put you to sleep or you're going to have an amazing time. It's going to be one experience or the other. If this show is catered directly towards you, if you are a fan of the most slice of life of the slice of lives, this is a show that you should watch. You absolutely should watch. If you loved Kimi ni Todoke, you need to watch Hyouka.
Yes.
Like, it's just, you have to, because it's just one of the best in that genre. And for me, it's one of the better anime I've watched. I don't think I had the best first experience with it because I watched it at a bad time. And I think that that's something to keep in mind, is that if you didn't like a show back in the day, maybe give it another try when you're in a better place. Yeah. Because you might have a completely different feeling or thought about it. I think we actually had a conversation about this in a recent podcast episodes where we went back and we didn't re-rate things, but we looked at things through a different lens. Like, would we have really felt this horribly about something, or do we really love something as much as we said we did, or wow, we really should have put a boot in that one's ass? So I think that I loved this a lot more the second time around, but I think I'm also going to give it a really high like it because I don't think that I can go back and rewatch Hyouka anytime soon because of its second half. I think it was too slow, and I think that because I was so into the first half of the show and I felt like I was dragging through the second half, I didn't love the show as much as I could have because they put so much emphasis on making arcs so long. The first half of the show was perfect. If the show cut off at episode 12, I would have given this a love it. I do think, however, the characterization and the character development that happened in the second half was valuable, and I loved parts of it. But the pacing was just not as perfect in the first half as much as it was in the second half. So I'm going to give it a high like it as well. Mostly specifically because of that. The show easily could have been a love it, but it took its time. And time is money, and I got a lot of it. So as much as I want more Hyouka, I wish I had had less when I was watching it, if that makes any sense. I want more of those focused character pieces, unless I'm going to take these character pieces and spread them out over 8 episodes. Give me more shotgunning. Come on, Hyouka. I know you can do it. You did it in the first half. But
yeah,
That's how I feel about it. I think it's an amazing show. I think it's one of the best shows in its genre. I think that it's beautiful. I think that it's... Ugh. God, I could talk about all the good things that it did. But it did have, this small bump in the road that unfortunately gutted out my car, and then I had to get it fixed, and I just wanted to have a smooth trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think definitely, like you said, it can be very polarizing as well, just for certain people. So your mileage will depend based on your personality. I probably couldn't show it to Get either, even though Get is basically as unmotivated often as Oreki is. So I feel like you'd at least relate to him.
Oh, no, there have been times where I like, took screenshots, and I was like, oh, look, it's you. It's you, Dominic.
Right?
If I were to compare you to a non-female character, this would be it. This is your male anime character. We all have one of each gender. Maybe a few of each gender. But everybody has, like, a girl or a boy or a non-binary character. I'm not sure if they exist yet. I hope they do. Show me that anime. Please pinpoint me to that anime. But you always have these characters that go over. It's past gender, basically, where you're like, this is you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's when I see a trash can. And I'm like, that's me. It transcends my humanity. I'm like, oh, hey. There I am. That's me in this anime. Right there. Yato just climbed in and rolled me down a hill.
Oh my god. I don't know if we're doing a drop for Shoujo Treehouse, but if so, please make it that. Alrighty. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, that being said, I think we're ready to head out if you are, unless you have anything else to say about the lovely Hyouka.
I have nothing else to say except that tune in for our next one, because we've already picked out what we're going to be talking about next in our lovely little girls only zone, and I am very excited about it because I got to pick it this time. So stay tuned sometime in the future for that.
Indeed, absolutely. Look forward to it. And definitely, if you really like these segments of these episodes, leave a YouTube comment or email us at anniechatmail@gmail.com to let us know. Also, that kickstarted my reminder that I have to plug some stuff. So before we formally say goodbye, like we said, you can find us at twitter.com/anniechatbox or anniechatmail@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, you can do so on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, or YouTube. And if you are feeling charitable, please check out our Patreon with updated tiers at patreon.com/AnnieChatbox. Major shout outs, as always, to Sarah, Corpsey, and Carol, Suki, and Paul. You are wonderful, and you make me feel kini narimasu. So thank you for that.
You make me feel doki doki.
Doki doki suru.
Doki suru.
And if you want to hear from Craig some more or our friends over at Save Our Progress, go to soundcloud.com/saveourprogress. Hear about movies, video games, lifestyle, everyday, all things, and plenty of puns. Definitely check them out. There is our plug shout out. You're welcome, Craig. And with that, I'm going to climb down this tree and wander back into our little cardboard box where we live forever, outside of when we come and do our little Shoujo Treehouse feature.
Oh my god, is this like actual canon now? Like, we live in a box underneath a tree, but occasionally we climb up into a tree house that the boys can't get into?
Just building,
That's so mean.
Just building this lore. I mean, hey, we're all poor, living in this box. John and Craig are holding a diamond hostage that they won't sell. So, you know what?
It's true. And Dominic just got here and doesn't know where they belong. So It's fine. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, yeah, that being said, everybody, thanks again for tuning in, and we hope you have a good night.
Oyasumi!